Have you ever found yourself staring at your phone, wondering why he hasn't reached out? Especially when everything between you felt so real. The conversations, the connection, the chemistry, it all seemed to be building towards something, and then suddenly, silence. It's confusing, it's painful, and it makes you question everything. But here's the truth most women never hear. A man can want you deeply and still not contact you. It sounds contradictory, even cruel, but it's not about you. It's about what's happening inside of him. Men are taught to suppress vulnerability. They're conditioned to see emotions as weakness, especially when it comes to relationships. So when a man starts to feel things deeply, when he realizes he's catching real feelings, his default response isn't always to lean in. Sometimes it's to pull away. Why? Because craving you means giving up control, and that scares him more than he's willing to admit. He might ghost, not because he doesn't care, but because he cares more than he knows how to handle. The silence is his attempt to process those feelings alone without exposing his heart or risking rejection. But the problem is, while he's battling those inner fears, you're left in the dark. That's why this moment matters. Because instead of chasing after answers or doubting your worth, you have a chance to finally understand the psychology behind the silence. In this video, we'll uncover the truth behind his emotional distance, and most importantly, how you can respond in a way that protects your power and honors your heart. So, if you're tired of second-guessing his silence, you're exactly where you need to be. Let's talk about what's really going on. So what's really going on inside his mind when he doesn't contact you, even though you know he felt something? The truth is, men don't always process connection the same way women do. While women tend to emotionally connect in a more linear way, where time, trust, and vulnerability build upon each other, men often experience deep emotional connections as disruptions. Not in a bad way, but in a way that challenges how they see themselves and their control over their own emotion. When a man starts to crave a woman on a deep emotional level, it does something unexpected. It exposes all his internal insecurities, fears, and doubts. You become a mirror, not just reflecting the connection, but reflecting the parts of him he's been avoiding. His fear of not being enough, his fear of being hurt, his fear of needing someone. And that fear can be paralyzing. You may assume that if he really liked you, he would pursue you relentlessly. But emotional attraction doesn't always translate into action when there's fear involved. In fact, the stronger the craving, the greater the inner conflict. He wants to reach out. He wants to feel close. But then his mind kicks in. What if I'm not ready for this? What if she sees the parts of me I've hidden from everyone? What if I give in too quickly and lose my power? What if I get hurt again? These thoughts aren't obvious. He doesn't say them out loud. He might not even consciously realize he's thinking them, but they're running the show. So instead of calling you, texting you, or making a move, he hesitates. And that hesitation starts to grow into silence. Days go by, then weeks. And from the outside, it looks like he doesn't care. But on the inside, he's stuck in a battle between desire and self-protection. What makes it even more confusing is that sometimes he might even test you through that silence. He might wonder, will she chase me? Will she fight for me? Will she still be there if I come back later? It's not healthy behavior, but it's real. It comes from a place of emotional immaturity and fear of vulnerability. This is why it's so dangerous to assume that no contact always equals no interest, because sometimes no contact equals emotional overload. It's not that he doesn't feel anything, it's that he's overwhelmed by what he does feel and doesn't know what to do with it. But here's the thing, it's not your job to manage his emotions for him. It's not your responsibility to convince him you're safe or to reach out and rescue him from his internal chaos. When a man is truly ready to be in a relationship, he chooses to communicate. He doesn't let fear hold him back. That's the difference between emotional attraction and emotional maturity. So if you're in a situation where he's gone silent and you know he felt something, this is your moment to reclaim your power. Don't fill in the silence with overthinking. Don't create a story that makes his fear your failure. Instead, take his silence as information, not a reflection of your worth, but a reflection of where he is emotionally. Because in the end, someone who truly values you will find a way to show up, not just when it's easy, but even when it's hard. And if he can't do that, then maybe he doesn't deserve to have the access to your heart that he once did. When a man doesn't reach out, even when he clearly feels something for you, it's easy to assume he's simply lost interest. But often, it's not about disinterest, it's about emotional triggers. These are deep-rooted responses formed from past experiences, pain, or fear that create invisible walls between what he feels and how he acts. One of the biggest emotional triggers for men is the fear of rejection. Even the most confident man, someone who seems charismatic, successful, or put together, can carry the quiet fear of being emotionally rejected. Maybe he was hurt in a past relationship. Maybe someone he loved walked away when he finally opened up. That memory stays. So now, even when he meets someone amazing, like you, he hesitates. Because reaching out feels like handing you the power to hurt him again. Another major trigger is the fear of losing his independence. This one runs deep, especially in men who associate relationships with control or restriction. He might care about you, he might crave you, but if being with you makes him feel like he's giving up his freedom or losing his grip on his own path, he will instinctively pull back, not because you're doing anything wrong, but because he's projecting old fears onto something new and real. There's also the fear of not being enough. This one hides well. On the outside, he may seem self-assured, but inside, if he doesn't feel like he can fully measure up, emotionally, financially, or spiritually, he may retreat. Why? Because if he believes he can't offer you what you deserve, then silence becomes his shield. He'd rather withdraw than risk you discovering his insecurities. Then there's emotional overwhelm. Some men have never been taught how to process intense feelings. When they experience real intimacy, vulnerability, or emotional connection, it overloads them. Instead of leaning into it, they shut down. It's not about not wanting the connection, it's that they don't have the emotional tools to hold it. So their nervous system reacts by retreating into silence as a way to cope. Another lesser talked about trigger is past guilt or shame. If he's made mistakes in his life, or even in your connection, those lingering feelings can make him feel unworthy of reaching out. He may believe he's messed it up, or that you're better off without him. This inner narrative creates distance, even when he deeply desires closeness. And finally, there's ego and pride. Yes, as real as the emotional pain and vulnerability is, sometimes it's simply a bruised ego keeping him away. Maybe he expected you to chase him. Maybe he thought he had more control over how you felt. And now that the dynamic isn't going the way he imagined, he freezes. Instead of humbling himself and reaching out, he convinces himself that staying silent gives him back some power. All of these triggers, whether they're rooted in fear, insecurity, ego, or overwhelm, are deeply human, but understanding them doesn't mean excusing them. You can have empathy for his emotional walls without trying to break them down yourself. The truth is, the man who's meant for you will recognize his triggers and still choose to grow past them. He won't let them keep him from showing up. He won't let them keep him silent when you deserve clarity. Because real connection is not just about chemistry, it's about emotional courage. And that means being willing to reach out, even when it's scary. So if he's being quiet and these triggers feel familiar, don't take it as your cue to fix him. Take it as a moment to ask, do I want to wait on someone who's still running from himself? Or do I want to make space for the love that rises above fear? If there's one thing that silently controls a man's behavior in relationships, it's this: the fear of rejection and vulnerability. It's not always obvious. It's not loud. In fact, it often shows up in silence, avoidance, mixed signals, or detachment. But underneath all that distance is a fear so powerful it can override how much he cares about you. From a young age, many men are taught that strength equals emotional control. Vulnerability, softness, even the act of expressing love, those things are often labeled as weakness in their world. So when a man starts to genuinely fall for someone, when emotions rise and intimacy deepens, he finds himself standing at a crossroad. Open up and risk being hurt, or retreat and protect himself. And far too often, he chooses protection. Because vulnerability to a man who's never felt safe showing emotion is terrifying. It means exposing a side of himself that he's spent years hiding. It means possibly revealing his insecurities, his fears, his emotional wounds, and trusting that you won't reject him once you see the full picture. That's a huge risk for someone who's never been shown that love can be safe. Then there's the fear of rejection, which goes even deeper. Rejection isn't just, she might not like me. To many men, rejection feels like a failure of their identity. It strikes at their sense of worth, competence, and masculinity. Being turned away or not being enough for a woman they truly care about isn't just painful, it's devastating. So what happens? He pulls back. Not because he doesn't feel something, but because he feels too much. His silence is his shield. He'd rather retreat than risk putting his heart on the line and hearing, "You're not what I need." And in that choice, he chooses fear over connection. Sometimes this fear doesn't even come from you. It's old, it's rooted in past trauma. Maybe he loved someone once and got betrayed. Maybe he opened up to a partner and was made to feel small, weak, or not good enough. And now, even though you're not that person, his body still reacts to the memory. It tells him, don't do it again. Don't let her see too much. Don't give her the chance to walk away. So even if you've given him every reason to feel safe, even if you've been warm, patient, and open, he still might not reach out. Because fear doesn't always listen to logic. Fear listens to pain. And until he heals it, it runs the show. But here's what's important to remember. His fear is not your responsibility. You could be the most understanding, loving, emotionally safe woman on earth, and if he hasn't done the inner work, he'll still struggle to meet you in that space. The kind of man who's emotionally available, who's ready for deep love, will feel that fear and still choose to connect. He won't use it as an excuse to disappear or self-sabotage. He'll learn how to move through the discomfort because he knows that love is worth it. He knows that vulnerability is part of intimacy, and he's willing to face it, not run from it. So if you're stuck in the loop of wondering why he won't reach out, ask yourself this: am I confusing emotional depth with emotional readiness? Because he might feel something real, but that doesn't mean he's ready to handle it. And if he's not, it's not a reflection of your worth, it's a reflection of his walls. You deserve a love that's not afraid to be seen, not afraid to risk, and not afraid to rise above fear. You deserve someone who doesn't just crave you, but is courageous enough to show up for you. When a man pulls away or goes silent, the instinct for many women is to close the gap, to reach out, to ask what's wrong, to get clarity, to fight for what felt real. Because the connection was there, right? You felt it, so why wouldn't you try to fix it? But here's the hard truth. Chasing a man almost always backfires. Not because you're too much, not because your feelings are wrong, but because the act of chasing shifts the energy and it places all the power in his hands. When a man feels your energy coming toward him while he's moving away, he doesn't interpret it as love, he sees it as pressure, as neediness, as emotional debt. And instead of feeling flattered or softened, he feels trapped. Even if he cares, even if he misses you, the more you chase, the less he has to do, because you've already made yourself emotionally available, regardless of how he's showing up. That imbalance is where attraction begins to fade. It's not your emotion that pushes him away, it's the over-functioning. It's the giving without reciprocation, the calling when he hasn't called, the texting when he's been silent, the trying to fix what can only be healed from his side. Chasing also sends a subconscious message: you're the prize and I'm trying to earn you. And while there's nothing wrong with effort in a relationship, chasing from a place of anxiety, fear, or abandonment tells him that he can pull away and still keep you. That's when the dynamic turns toxic. That's when you start shrinking yourself just to keep him interested. And that's not love, that's survival mode. So what do you do instead? You shift the focus back to you. You stop chasing, not to play games, but to reclaim your dignity, to remind yourself that you don't have to earn someone's attention. You don't have to prove your worth to someone who's unsure. Instead of texting to fill the silence, you let the silence speak. You let him feel your absence. Because sometimes your presence isn't what wakes a man up, it's your distance. This doesn't mean you're punishing him, it means you're honoring yourself. You're saying, if you're unsure, I'll step back. If you need space, I'll give it. But I'm not going to chase someone who can't see my value clearly. And here's where the power shifts. When a high-value woman pulls her energy back, it creates space for a man to step into his own clarity. He has to feel the discomfort of losing access to you. He has to face his own uncertainty instead of using your constant reassurance as a distraction. And if he truly cares, he'll return, not because you chased, but because he realized he didn't want to lose something real. But if he doesn't come back, that's your answer too, not as a rejection, but as redirection. Because the man who's meant for you will meet you where you are. He won't need chasing, convincing, or emotional negotiation. So let this be your reminder. You don't chase love. You attract it by standing still in your truth, by being the woman who knows her worth so deeply she doesn't panic when someone pulls away. She pauses, she breathes, she observes, and she chooses herself, even when it's hard. Because when you stop chasing the wrong man, you make space for the right one to find you. No contact is one of the most misunderstood but most powerful tools you have when it comes to emotional healing and reclaiming your personal power. It's not just about ignoring someone or teaching them a lesson. It's about choosing yourself in a moment where you could so easily abandon your own needs to chase theirs. When someone you care about goes silent, your nervous system often panics. You feel like you have to do something, text, call, check in, anything to break the discomfort. But every time you do that, you send the message, my peace depends on you. And that's a dangerous place to live. No contact flips that script. It creates space. It gives your heart and mind the room to recalibrate. And more importantly, it reminds you that you are safe, even without their reassurance. But here's the key. No contact isn't about waiting by your phone, counting the days, hoping they'll come back. It's not about using silence as manipulation. It's about shifting your attention inward instead of outward. It's where real empowerment begins. Because now, without distractions, you get to ask yourself the questions that matter. How was I showing up in this connection? Was I abandoning parts of myself to feel chosen? Did I shrink my needs to avoid pushing him away? Was I trying to earn love instead of receiving it freely? These are the questions that transform you. During no contact, you begin to rebuild trust, not with him, but with yourself. You stop outsourcing your peace to someone else's decisions. You start remembering who you were before the overthinking, the overgiving, the anxiety. You tap back into your power. This is your time to do the work, to reconnect with your passions, to journal through the pain, to read, grow, heal, move, evolve, to pour love into the parts of you that felt unworthy when he pulled away. Because when a man's silence makes you doubt your worth, it's not just his silence you're battling, it's your old wounds rising to the surface. No contact gives you the space to meet those wounds with compassion and healing rather than panic. And guess what happens when you do? You stop chasing, you stop waiting, you stop wondering what did I do wrong and start realizing maybe it's not about me at all. Maybe his silence is a mirror reflecting where he's at emotionally, not where you failed. When you approach no contact from this empowered place, something magical happens. You begin to glow differently, not because you're faking strength, but because you're genuinely becoming stronger. You're no longer the version of yourself that needs someone to validate your worth. You know your worth. You embody it, you walk in it, and if he does come back, you'll be in a space to see him clearly, not from a place of desperation, but from discernment. You'll ask, is this man showing up for me the way I show up for myself? And if the answer is no, you'll have the strength to keep moving. No contact isn't just a strategy, it's a spiritual reset, a reclamation, a return to the truth that your value is not tied to someone else's ability to recognize it. So while he may be wondering if you'll reach out, you'll be quietly becoming the version of yourself who doesn't need to. The version of you that attracts, not chases. That chooses peace, not panic. That leads with power, not fear. If you've ever found yourself stuck in a dynamic where you're always the one overthinking, overgiving, and overanalyzing his every move, this is your moment to flip the script. Not through games, not through manipulation, but through a powerful inner shift that changes everything about how you show up and, more importantly, how he responds to you. Flipping the script isn't about making him chase you just for the sake of your ego. It's about stepping back into your feminine power, the kind of power that doesn't beg, doesn't chase, and doesn't collapse every time someone becomes inconsistent. It's about shifting the dynamic from reaction to response. Because right now you may be reacting to his silence, his distance, his emotional confusion. And every time you react, by reaching out, by over-explaining, by waiting on him, you reinforce a dynamic where he leads and you follow, where he controls the pace and you try to keep up. So how do you flip that? It starts with stopping the emotional chase. You flip the script when you stop trying to earn love and start becoming magnetic to it. And magnetism isn't loud, it's not clingy, it's calm, it's grounded. It's when you're so deeply connected to your self-worth that you no longer feel the need to convince someone to stay. You let them